Hey guys, and welcome back to the Salty Spittoon. Today, I'll be doing another review. For the record, I received the key directly from Spike Chunsoft themselves. Shiren the Wanderer, the Tower of Fortune, and the Dice of Fate is the fifth installment of the Shiren the Wanderer series. It was actually released on the DS in 2010, as well as ported to the Vita in 2015, and it was finally released today, fully translated. This game is actually part of a larger series called Mystery Dungeon. Sounds familiar? Well, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games were actually based off of this game's series. They were even made by the same people too. That's why there is a heavy level of polish in each of the Mystery Dungeon games. There are some critical differences though, between the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games and Shiren the Wanderer, so let's start off with that first. First argument, not a clone. I want to first point out that I absolutely love the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games. The way they incorporated elements from Pokemon made me feel like they actually played the games. Pokemon spin-offs are usually a hit or a miss, but I say that the Mystery Dungeon games are the best one. However, the most noticeable difference between the two franchises exists in its genre tagging. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games could be considered a roguelite. However, Shiren is a roguelike, and a hard one at that. With the start of each day, or a failed dungeon, you start back at level 1. You don't just simply lose your items. Imagine if your Sceptile just devolved into a Trico every time you died. That adds a certain level of salt. However, it is much easier to top up on your items and weapons as they provide sequences of dungeons rather than simply just one. The difficulty starts a little higher but scales nicely. This makes a lot more sense for Shiren because of the frequent level resetting. I actually prefer that over the kind of padding that exists in most of the Mystery Dungeon games. Then boom, you have to trek through 30 floor dungeons. Perhaps the pacing could be better? Between the two, the ally mechanic works somewhat similarly. Even in its infancy, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games allowed you to augment how your party moves and acts in the dungeon. The AI in this game is a bit lackluster, but these allies are strong as heck. They also level up with you, dealing with the same drawbacks of the day cycle. One character had a boomerang and it was a huge help. The skill system also works differently. In the Pokemon variants, you're stuck with 4 active moves, but you can move tutor and learn new ones from leveling it up. In Shiren, however, you need to obtain them from NPCs or field mobs. I guess the most basic difference, besides items in general, are the weapons. Yes, you can equip weapons. Yay! Second argument, story and translation. The translation, not gonna lie, is very disappointing. I feel like the plot is interesting with its dealings and fate, but the dialogue is very stiff and all of the NPCs talk in this authoritative tone, even the children. I get that this isn't the type of RPG that requires you to learn lore from the characters, but it takes me out of the scenario. The pacing, however, is absolutely flawless. It maybe took me 10 minutes to get through the opening sequence. The conversations and dialogues are very short and placed in reasonable spots. It's a lot more tolerable than the plot, yeah, let's call it that, in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games. I can say that I can 100% overlook the translating issues because they don't have me reading dialogue 20 minutes at a time. I also feel like, in a weird way, it captures the same type of energy from a Mystery Dungeon game produced in the 90s, which would make sense because the series has been around since then. Do you guys remember when I pointed out that this was the 5th game in the series? Well, it doesn't feel like it. You get a quick disposition of the previous titles, but nothing that would make you scratch your head. This is a new story, or at least at the time of the original release of the game it was. Third argument, design. If you recall my previous review of Crown Trick, I took a few minutes to explain how I differentiate a good, hard roguelike and a poorly designed one. I mentioned, to an extent, that a difficult game should not be impossible or impossible to beat on your first playthrough. Shiren is only as difficult as you make it. There are obvious mob walls or just spikes in difficulty in general that will set you back. But if you plan accordingly, grind reasonably, the challenge now only comes from the enemies you face, not the designer-based discrepancies. Again, because you have to start off at level 1, either when you die or when a new day begins, they had to make it efficient to get money and gold. I feel, with a mechanic like this, there is no middle ground. It's either bad or very well implemented, and I could totally see why they left it out of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games. One thing I failed to mention, in the comparison portion of this video, was mentioning the differences in status effects. Although most of them are the same, Shiren has a lot more annoying ones. They wasted no time when they incorporated hidden trap tiles either. Do I think it's bad design? No. No, I don't. Why might you X? Well, they had to balance out the leveling system for the weapons, right? Oh, did I not mention that? Well, not everything resets when you die or come into a new day. Your equipment level persists. Even the debuffs. Certain traps and statuses will actually decrease your equipment level, and they can go lower than 1. You're now forced to have a rotation of weapons and armors. You can't min-max that stick they give you in the start of the game. Nice try though, buddy. Fourth argument, final opinion, music and sound design, 5 out of 5. Everything down to the hit effects, to the ambient music, to the intense BG, it's all wonderful and masterfully uses the DS's sound card. Gameplay, 5 out of 5. There's nothing else to say that I haven't already. Combat, solid. Item farming, not a huge headache. Although there is a lot to learn, they have hints, explanations, and tutorials everywhere. They want you to be prepared. Storyline and translation, 2 out of 5. It's not a real deal breaker for me, and I think I might need to peek at the Japanese script. However, I think the Japanese to English translation was definitely not up to snuff. It's just too stiff for me, personally. All things considered, I would 100% recommend this game to anyone, especially people who have played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games before. Thanks for listening to this quick, salty review, and I'll see you next time.